American evangelical Christian minister David Barton, who's also a conservative activist and author, was having a discussion with a guy named Mike Jacobs, and the topic of theocracy came up. Specifically, David Barton addressed the fear that some have that the religious right in the United States wants to implement a Christian theocracy in the United States. Of course, this is backed by story after story of attempts from lawmakers to make law based on specific teachings of their religion, whether it's gay marriage or abortion or research or education around science. How does David Barton describe a theocracy? Does he define a theocracy? Yeah, this isn't exactly what I would have said, but this is what David Barton said.
What is a theocracy? A theocracy is a government that God runs. As long as you have elections, you'll never have a theocracy. Mm-hmm. So the notion that if Christians get in power or Christians get involved, it's going to be a theocracy, that is stupidity. Yeah. Because as long as the people are choosing their own leaders at every level, you cannot have a government where God comes in and imposes it. And so this far left stuff that says, for Christians to get involved, they're trying to make a theocracy. No, we're choosing our leaders.
If there are elections, regardless of who the choices are, of the fairness or validity of the election, or anything else, if you have elections, if you nominally have something called an election, then it is not a theocracy. Now, how does this compare with the actual definition of theocracy? Let's explore. Theocracy is a form of government in which a deity is officially recognized as the civil ruler and official policy is governed by officials regarded as divinely guided, or is pursuant to the doctrine of a particular religion or religious group. Abundantly clear that according to that second definition, if you have a system of laws where biblical opposition to stem cell research, gay marriage, and abortion is part of the reasoning for those laws, you have theocratic laws and theocratic government. Now, what countries currently are theocracies? Well, we've got Iran, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Yemen, Afghanistan, the United Arab Emirates, Pakistan, Malaysia, Mauritania. The Islamic Republic of Iran has elections. Does David Barton agree that it is not a theocracy?
I guess you'd have to ask him. I'm not really sure. His definition, clearly is not the actual definition, but I don't know. I guess when God is talking to you and telling you things, what is in a dictionary doesn't really matter.
We should also explain to David Barton that the left doesn't fear that all Christians want a theocracy. Most of them don't, right? We think people like David Barton and his buddies and his ilk want a theocracy, but most Americans, regardless of whether they are religious or not, don't actually want a theocracy. And maybe Barton hasn't heard of Vatican City and how they have elections and they have a religious leader as their head of state. I guess he hasn't heard about that one either.
I wouldn't expect this guy to be too well brushed up on what's going on around the world. But I mean, I will say, I agree most Americans don't want a theocracy, but there is still a huge number of Christians in this country who essentially do want a theocracy and do want to strictly elect those who they believe are representing God.
Oh, no question. Because of the population of this country, we still have a huge number in the absolute sense of people who do want a Christian theocracy in this country. However, it is a minority percentage-wise, although it seems to be much higher if you look at actual elected officials, but that's kind of a different story. Next, that mugshot that Congressman Steve Stockman said would get media types arrested.